All right, here today we're talking about this 1959 GMC Viking, big truck. Kind of some background on this project. This is a truck I bought originally a couple years back. Realized I had too many projects, like many of us do. We see something, it's shiny, we got to buy it, right? So I went ahead and bought it, decided I had too many projects, sold it to a guy here in town. He was excited about it, threw it on a 1973 C30 chassis with some wood blocks, and that was it. Nothing else ever happened to it. Fast forward some time, I had a customer come in. He had a little Willis pickup truck that was just a total abortion. Everything was wrong with it. He actually bought it from a dealer. I actually had him send it back to the dealer. It was that bad. Nothing was safe. So that's how this project came about, was I realized the guy was selling it, and I was able to get it back, resell it to this current customer, and that puts us where we're at now. So we've got a lot of different things done to this truck. Lots of progress, lots of little snippets here and there. First, the big thing is probably the Cummins diesel that's under the hood, running about 650 horse roughly. It's an industrial diesel, rebuild, brand new basically. And same thing with the injection pump is also industrial injection. We have Mishimoto radiator and intercooler both based off a 94 Dodge. So we built a custom core support to house all that stuff in it. Okay, under the hood, we've done quite a few things here. This was pretty much a train wreck to start with. It had been on fire at some point in its life even, so the hood's pretty badly warped, so we had to fix some of that stuff. To fit that radiator in here, we not only built a custom core support to hold the front end, but to hold the radiator, the intercooler, the overflow, and the washer fluid all at one time. We built custom support bracing underneath the hood to a custom-built firewall, and the bracing actually holds these Eddie Motorsports hood hinges, which are gas struts, so when we release the custom assembly we built for the hood latch, it slides itself right on up there. So with the radiator, there was so much going on right here in the latch plate area that we decided to go ahead and move the latch assembly out to the sides, because where it was at is right where the radiator's got to live. So we used some low-car hood release cable assemblies and built ourselves a dual latch system with dual bear claws. That way it'll push the hood up and make it a little simpler. We had to build some custom bracing. We built a custom battery box as well to hold the battery over here in this side toolbox. And we did that just because it was so complicated to get to. We have the air filter and stuff in this location as well. Okay, through this air intake that we, the tube and filter housing we built, it feeds a Fleece 63 millimeter turbo, which actually feeds through a Banks split intake system straight into that big 12 valve Cummins. Other goodies on this Cummins include a 3-piece exhaust manifold. I've owned a few of these, and they always crack in the same spot, so I wanted some good relief in that area. We also are building a custom 4-inch exhaust system that comes straight up through a stack here, which won't be as tall. It's just in the middle of the mock-up stage right now. All right, so the washer fluid reservoir and overflow reservoir were built custom by Wagner Fabrication here in Colorado Springs for us. They also did our fuel tank. We'll get to that in a minute. And CVF Racing actually has a belt drive kit for these. Pretty cool because it comes with a compressor, everything you need, harmonic balancer type, everything's included in the kit when you buy it. Power steering, all kinds of options, so really good buy there. The only bling on this truck are these 22 5 Alcoas we had milled, stuck some Michelin tires on it. Really love how these look. They take up that massive wheel well, and no, we're not going to run those stupid spikes. No offense to you guys, just not for this truck. All right, so the chassis under this is a 1973 C30, so 1-ton, 2-wheel drive dually frame long bed. It's so wide in the front that even with the C30 front end under it for the dually, it wasn't wide enough to bring that wheel out. It actually sat in about 6 inches. So we literally widened the control arms. So we actually had them custom built by 4D Engineering. Thanks, Cole Duran, here in Colorado Springs. He widened those for us, uppers and lowers, and built a tie rod sleeve to match so we can keep the geometry correct and all the way around. So a big challenge was actually making this cab fit this frame. So it's not as straightforward as just build a mount. So the back mount is actually one big mount that goes all the way across and adapts the height of the cab to the height of the frame. They're about 14 inches in height. So the front mount on this driver's side actually houses the brake pedal assembly, which is Hydro Boost, and the cab mount, and some steering, all built into one location. Pretty interesting. We used energy suspension for the polyurethane mounts to actually bolt it down and keep it cushioned. Okay, for the rear suspension on this, we actually have a 1994 C3500, so 1-ton dually rear axle that we custom fit. It's a little narrower, so we didn't have the big wheel sticking out so far. With that, we used Ritex bolt-on suspension meant for the 94, but we modified it to fit our 73. This did a couple things for us. It allowed us to fit the axle diameter, but it also allowed us good ample travel with a good heavy-duty airbag sleeved to handle all the weight that this flatbed is going to be able to carry. All right, so this cab had a lot of rust issues, dent issues. It was a work truck. It was beaten up pretty badly. So we had to rebuild the upper and lower hinges. We put on Trick Manufacturing bear claw assemblies from a half-ton truck. They fit really, really well. And we actually used a big back window conversion from a half-ton truck as well. This does a couple things for us. First, this thing sits low, but needs the vision out the back window, so it helps a lot with that. But coincidentally, we found a ton of rust issues when we were cutting it to fit this big back conversion. We did the internal structure as well as the external. They all fit together. Got the handle grabs built into it with the structure inside, so that works out very well. All right, in the cab, we have a couple things we had to overcome, and one of the big ones was the height of that Cummins. Luckily, the cab sits pretty high above the chassis, so that helped a lot with the engine clearance, but we needed to make sure we could get to it as well. So we got removable covers. The whole unit can also remove in one piece if necessary. Steering box, we installed a very short I Did It steering column with dual supports that are tied into the bracing, which also relieves the firewall. That way it's nice and strong and nothing's wiggling around. We used Dakota digital gauges. They're actually meant for a 1949 Chevy truck, so we just kind of built our own housing to keep that in the dash. So we want this thing comfortable while we're driving. So we're going to use a lot of hush mat to keep this noisy 12 valve as quiet as we can, but it's also going to help insulate it for our vintage air system we have. We've used a universal Gen 3 Mini, and we also use a good control unit. It's kind of a vintage throwback. So in that area would have been an ashtray. So we went ahead and removed the ashtray, filled that in, and then custom fit the panel so it looks like it belonged there. We're still kind of working out some design aspects of this. So we have some good solid framing. This is 2x3 thick 11 gauge tubing. We got it layered throughout. We built custom mounts, also using energy suspension mounts as well. We're in the middle of building our wheel wells, and then we're going to start working on some toolboxes. These toolboxes are going to do a couple things. First, we're going to have easy access to the batteries located behind it, as well as the air management system. But in this one particular, not only can we fit some big boom booms, if you know what I'm saying, but we also will have access to the suspension to be able to take that apart and service it as needed or if needed. In building the toolboxes, we were trying to rough out kind of an idea, and we don't have all these complicated computer programs yet, so we're using a different form of CAD, cardboard aided design. What this does is it still gives the customer a visual of what it is I'm trying to relay, but it also gives us a real life working of exactly where everything fits. Eventually we'll get into the scanning, but this works just as good for us at this time. So based off that, now we know where our hinge locations are going to be. We know the height of it. We know the shape of the wheel well. We know where that's going to go. We also know the toolbox locations and the complications we have to the rear bumper as well. So with the bed, we're actually going to run a wood floor on this. We want to keep it kind of vintage, throwback, if you will. So our big Wagner Fabrication fuel tank here will have a trap door, so we have easy access for filling it. The bumper is a big chunky piece. We're actually going to run the receiver and hitch all that stuff through here. What we're trying to figure out is taillight locations in the bumper next. We're also going to build a headache rack. As you can see, based off the height of our stack, which is mocked up currently, we're going to have a headache rack, but we don't want to go above the bottom of the back window. Maybe a little bit, but not enough that when you look out off to your side to change lanes that you're looking at a headache rack. We want it to be where you can see right between the seats, have a good visual of not only what's on deck, but your next lane as well. So even though there's a lot of technical stuff we've gone over on this, we're still wanting to make sure it's driver friendly. So things like cruise control, air conditioning, all that kind of stuff we're tying into this project. The guy wants to be able to drive it to Maine. That's where his family's from. So he wants to be able to drive this all the way there, load up some projects, hence the flatbed, bring some stuff back with him. So I think we're just about there as far as hitting the mark on that. So the next steps we're working into after getting the bed put together enough, we'll blow the whole truck apart and we'll finish weld the chassis, we'll finish weld the bed, we'll finish weld anything in the cab. And we're going to stick with patina on this bad boy. We're not going to go with a nice, bright, shiny paint job. So after we get everything powder coated, and we're still trying to figure out what to do on the bed itself. We don't know if we should let it rust or, he's still kind of working that out in his head. Either way, it's going to be patina. but we'll powder coat the chassis, suspension components, fuel tank. We still got to route things like fuel lines, brake lines. So there's still some fit work, and that's why we're not calling it done quite yet. All right, so a lot more progress coming on this, so hit the subscribe button, follow us on YouTube or Instagram. Yeah, I was gonna say that I was say, do you have a shot? Does that fall under my problem or your problem? Work hazard? Go ahead, Andrew. Gaddy. Anybody ever tell you you're in the way? Anybody ever tell you you're in the way? Okay. Me. Anyway.